What is going on, Colts Nation? He's Jamal, and I'm Eric, your co-host of the Colts Cast.
What's going on?
Hey, look, NFL free agency coming up soon, very soon, probably like a month, but starts on March 10th. Really, it's March 12th, but negotiations begin on March 10th. The Indianapolis Colts, we've been reserved when it comes to free agency over the years with Chris Ballard at the helm. Does that change this year, Jamal?
Supposed to.
I was supposed to.
Supposed to. I don't know how true that is, though.
Nah, it's not changing. but let's say it did. Let's say it didn't. It doesn't matter. We have to talk about 3 free agents that the Colts have to target in 2025. Jamal, start us off.
So I just want to preface this before, get to the whole drop your comment and subscribe thing. I just want to preface this by saying that we all have to take a second to remember, not only does, as Eric mentioned, we have about less than a month before all this opens up. So that's where the hard work comes in, because we like to get excited about this time, as we do every year, even though we know it's the same thing, same thing over and over and over, expecting a different result, never getting a different result, getting the same result again. However, this is going to be the true test, not only because Chris Ballard says he's going to go out and try his hardest this year, to be more aggressive, not to be too aggressive, but to be more aggressive than he has in the past. I want to know what the pitch is going to be to sell these people to come to Indianapolis, because that's going to be the biggest thing. Chris Ballard has to be able to convince these people of why you should be here, why you want to bring your family to Indianapolis, and what benefits do we bring to you as a player. So drop your comments below, hit that like and subscribe button, let us know.
What are some benefits of living in Indy, Jamal?
I mean, small market, you're not going to get dog ragged if you don't play good, like you would in New York. Cost of living is decent out here, fans do enjoy the team. They do step out whenever something's going on team related. But winning is one thing that's not been going on for us right now. And I think that's one hard selling point for people. How are you going to convince somebody who's coming from a Super Bowl caliber team, or someone maybe who's even won a Super Bowl, to come to the Indianapolis Colts? What do you bring to the table? And that's where Chris Ballard's going to really have his work cut out for him. So I'll be interested to see how that's going to go.
And I'll be interested to see what our cap space is going to look like come free agency time, come after the draft time. Because right now, I mean, it's pretty low, 24 million, give or take, in about effective cap space. So that's potentially going to change. We got to see who we're going to bring in, who we're going to let leave. It just all depends. So without further ado, Jamal, who's our first free agent that we have to target?
I think the first one we should talk about is a guy who I've read some good things, some bad things about this person, from Colts fans. And of course, just around the league, there's been some in and outs and abouts about him, but it's a guy who I think we have to talk about, especially based off of what Ballard and company said during his presser this year. We're going to talk about Mr. Unlimited himself, Russell
Wilson?
Mr. Unlimited.
What? So let's talk about him. What I think if there's one thing I agree with Ballard, it's the importance of competition. Jamal, you talked about it basically all last season. Like, our wide receiver room, we need that competition. Makes guys better, and it does. It produces better players. That's what competition is there for. It's that simple. Anthony Richardson, one of the youngest QBs in the NFL, but it's clear that the front office has some doubts. They're for sure doing some contingency planning. Like, they've already said they're bringing in competition. So Russell Wilson, viable option. He's an accomplished quarterback. He's not cooked like everyone thought he was. He will legitimately compete with Richardson at this point in time for the QB1 spot. You can get this guy for the cheap. I mean, he was on the vet minimum, I believe, last year with the Steelers, trying to get his stock up. So, I would say his stock probably went a little higher than the vet minimum. So, he's not going to be that cheap, but he's a more than capable backup if he is, like, he ends up being QB2. But strong leader from what I've heard in the locker room. I would say Richardson hasn't had any real competition since entering the league a few years ago. He's had some questionable actions in the just last season. Year 3's critical for him. He has to give it his all to have a shot for a future in the NFL. So you bring Wilson in, keep his motivation going, but you also offer the Colts, that safety net if Richardson can't last those 17 games. So I think best insurance policy available at the price, in my opinion.
Yeah, fully agree with that. I mean, and we all know that Wilson is not the answer for the future of the Colts. Okay, obviously we know he's up there in age. He's not going to be for the next 15 years trying to run the show. But we also know that Chris Ballard is not in the business of tanking, because he knows if he's in the business of tanking, his job is done. So he's not going to sit here and play a game of well, let's see what'll happen maybe if I do this, and just pick up someone else of a lesser skill set. And then have to run the risk of the team being sub 500, because as far as we're concerned, based off what we think, he would be gone without question this year. So he's not going to play it dumb. Again, Russell's somebody who can come in here he's going to come in here expecting to start. He's going to want to start, which means that if Richardson wants to start, he's going to have to bust his ass the entire time to get up there and play at that level, which I think could be a great motivational piece. I know a lot of people really want to draft the quarterback at this point, and so forth, kind of let them duel each other out to see what's going on. But I really think we need a legitimate vet presence back there, not one who's not just for himself, but one who's there to actually try to make this team a little bit better, and they still have an end goal in mind, not a washed up quarterback who is at the end of the career and they don't care. They're just here to kind of ride the bench. Russell is going to be that guy who actually still wants to win another championship. So you bring in somebody like him who you can probably get, like you mentioned, a little more than vet minimum, hopefully not too much more, and let him come in and try and see what happens. And worst case scenario, Richardson learns from him and he gets better. If he's not starting, then that's when we have to have that legitimate conversation of, well, then where does this new regime start from here? But we don't cross that bridge until we get there with somebody behind him to actually push him to the next level. And I think Wilson does that.
Yeah, and I think Wilson will help out a lot of our receivers as well. I mean, Wilson's little ball that he throws outside the numbers, yeah, I saw it a lot with George Pickens last year when he did connect with those. It looked good. I could see it. I could see Pittman. I could see Pierce. I can see it. It makes sense math wise. So yeah, who's next, Jamal?
Second guy right here. This is another name I've been hearing around, the Colts community. And actually, PFF had this guy just last week ranked or projected as our number one landing spot for him. And that goes by the name of Mr. Dre Greenlaw.
About him, Dre Greenlaw. Why you like him?
I like him because, simple fact, coverage. He can drop in coverage and play. Crazy high coverage numbers according to PFF over the past couple of years he's been playing. Had an 82.6 grade and a 79.5 grade. That and again, I know coverage isn't the end all be all, but that's one problem we saw with Zaire and EJ this year. When it came time to be in coverage, it was non-existent for us. So I think that somebody like him can step in and actually elevate this team. I think Zaire and EJ combined for like sub 41% or coverage grade, which is ridiculously low. I mean, we talk about the tackles and all that other crap. Not here to talk about, those gimme tackles or whatever. I'm here to talk about the simple fact that there was no coverage going on by this linebacker core. So we need to bring somebody in who has been on a winning team. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's been at the highest level, at these NFC Championship games. He knows what it's like to be in the locker room, and he can also teach these guys who are already pretty good linebackers how to get better in that coverage factor. So I really like what he can bring.
Yeah, I feel like I've been saying this for years, ever since we lost, Prime Shaq Leonard and Bobby Okereke. The Colts don't have a coverage / off ball linebacker to go to. And I feel like to play at the highest level at the linebacker position, you have to be able to do both. I think Zaire is a phenomenal run stopper. He got all pro honors. He's legit in that area, but I would think, that one Achilles heel might be what is he doing in coverage? Maybe that gets better in a new defensive scheme under Lou Anarumo, but we'll see. I just think if the Colts don't re-sign EJ Speed, Dre Greenlaw, fantastic upgrade. I think there's an argument that could be made. He's coming off an Achilles tear, he's going to be 28 years old this upcoming season. But look, it's time for Ballard to take some swings for the fences. Like Terrell Suggs came back after tearing his Achilles in 2012, helped the Ravens win the Super Bowl next year. So I'm not, super worried about it. Sign the guy to a 1-2 year deal. Let's see if he returns to form as one of the most athletic linebackers in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to be Colts, Chris Ballard, he could take the risk. I forgot who we drafted in the second or third round a couple years ago, but they tore their Achilles in college. I was reading about that, actually, kind of talking about the same thing. So it's not the end all be. I know he's a little bit younger, but Dre's only like what 26, 27, I think. So he can bounce back from that. Again, another player we can have in our back pocket to help elevate this team. But yeah, who you like third, man?
Man, and we talked about this on our last mock draft. We were like, man, we got to fill this void up at the cornerback position. So I like the guy, Carlton Davis, former Detroit Lion, could still be a Detroit Lion, but
Mm-hmm.
I would say cornerback is a significant need for the Colts.
Mm-hmm.
Jones and Walmack, I think they did their thing, but we need someone with an edge at corner, somebody who brings a higher ceiling. Especially if we can't get our hands on Will Johnson in April, I think it may be time to scope out a veteran like Davis. Lion fans want him back. I see why. He was excellent for him before that broken jaw he had in week 15. But according to PFF, through 15 weeks, his 11 forced interceptions ranked ninth in the NFL. I mean, that's all I need to hear.
Mm-hmm.
We had way too many incompletions. Way too many easy completions last season. That was evident in the year before. Just kind of the way the defensive scheme Gus Bradley had, but also, I mean, the talent wasn't up to standard, I would say, in my opinion. So you give me a guy who can get physical in those one-on-one situations, man coverage, press coverage, be able to make plays on the ball, and force those, 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9s, those incompletions, boom, they're punting. We're back out there on offense. He's also had, experience. He's successful in the zone. He played with Aaron Glenn, which Aaron
Mm-hmm.
Glenn is highly respected, and that's why he got the head coaching job, the job with the New York Jets. So, like, man, this guy, if the Lions don't end up somehow retaining him, I think we get a great cornerback. Davis is a wonderful addition.
Yeah, fully agree. And three things that scare me just about him. These aren't knocks on him at all, but there's things you just mentioned. For one, of course, Aaron Glenn being the new head coach of the Jets, they're going to be trying to tug at his leg to get him over there. Lions, they saw what he produced for him. They're going to try to tug at his leg, say, "Hey, you need to stay over here." And then three, he's gonna want some money, no matter what's going on. He's going to say, "Yeah, who's going to pay me?" Who's this? And that's where salary
Ballard.
cap is going to have to come back into play.
Bargain
But
bin Ballard got this, baby.
bargain been better. Because you already talked about the interceptions and how he helped force those. Talking about last year, in Detroit, he's rocking a 77 QB rating, which is a career best for him. 55.3% QB completion ratio, second best in his career. So I mean, again, it's according to PFF. These are skill sets, man. This dude, he's a shutdown corner. He was in Tampa Bay when they won a Super Bowl. And I know I keep harping on these players who have rings or these players who have made it to the NFC championships, AFC championships all this time, because they've hit that, when you have someone like Tom Brady in your locker room, the standard is not to make the wild card. The standard is to get to the Super Bowl. So they've been around people who've set a standard for them to show them how you get to the next level. So then you go from playing on Tampa Bay to then going to Detroit, where even though they had a hiccup in the championship game, they were able to get as far as they needed to be, or excuse me, not championship, championship game or divisional game, I guess, whatever. Point is that he's played on teams that have made it throughout this hump of just saying, "Hey, we're okay with being 500. We're okay with just being over 500." So these players are the ones we need in our locker room to help elevate our team.
Yeah, especially with that young secondary.
Yeah,
I think, man, Colts got to go after at least two of these guys.
have to.
Three would be great. I think we've talked about some other targets potentially. I know we talked about Justin Fields a little bit, but yeah, Ballard has to start adding. I think this is the official hot seat. I mean, he's got heated seats, 3 out of 3. Like that set-in is high up there. So he's got to make moves. And I really believe this year is the year he does some kind of splash moves, at least makes the water ripple a little bit. So we'll see. But Dre Greenlaw, Carlton Davis, Russell Wilson, you are an Indianapolis Colt. According to the Colts cast.
Bring it on in town.
Yeah, that's all I got.
Yes, sir. That's it.
That's going to be it for us, everyone. Thank you for listening to the Colts Cast. We're live on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, or any platform you use to listen to podcasts. We'll be back next time to give you some more Indianapolis Colts content. I'll take care.
Take it easy.